Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? I haven't finished the book that I'm reading right now, but I listened to a YouTube video today that reminded me of a book I have not talked to you guys about. I read this one about three and a half years ago at this point. Maybe not that long. Yeah, about 3 years ago. By Wilfred Riley called Hate Crime Hoax. And I believe that was the title. I actually haven't looked it up, so hey, maybe it's going to be different when I finally put the cover on the thumbnail of this. Anyway, what made me think of this book? I'll tell you that, and then I'll tell you what the book's about. There was a prominent politician in Los Angeles who just pled guilty to a major screw up on his part. I say screw up like it was a mistake. Like, no, it was deliberate. It was just an extremely stupid thing to do, not only for its own sake, but the way that he did it. Like, just wow, when you find out what it was, it'll blow your freaking mind. I'm going to link to Nate the Lawyer's video on this subject. He's a great follow, by the way. But it's relevant for the purposes of this story to know that this guy, I believe he was the DA in LA, he's black, and he buys in hard to this mythology about the relationship between blacks and the cops outright, that the cops are just out there like looking for excuses, looking for reasons to hunt black guys down, like it's all they think about. It keeps them up at night. And so much so that last winter, even in December, he decided that the demand for racism exceeded the supply, and that he needed to bring awareness to this issue by committing a hoax, by calling in a bomb threat to City Hall, where he was at the time. Within a very short period of time, the bomb squad determined that there was not a real threat, and then they went and kind of reverse engineered the call and determined that it was this DA himself who had issued the threat. And they discovered this. You might think that the DA had some kind of high-tech way of covering his tracks. Like, no, he utterly boomered this moment. I don't even know how old this guy is. You got to assume he's like Gen X or something. The point is, if you're going to do something like this, at least do it in the technically correct sense. He called his work phone from his personal phone to issue the threat so that he would have the recording, I guess, on the work phone. And all they had to do was basically a star 69, or, I just dated myself with that reference. Look at the call history, and they can subpoena that crap from the phone companies and say, oh yeah, here we go. And they found him and they busted him. And no matter what his ideology is as far as the relationship between blacks and law enforcement, he's entering a guilty plea on this charge. Other than this, it doesn't sound like he's got any criminal history, so he'll probably have to pay a fine and have the charge on his record and do some community service or whatever. I doubt that he'll be locked up for it. But it was just an insanely stupid thing to do for no gain and for no reason, on top of it being immoral and dishonest. But listening to Nate the Lawyer break this down, it reminded me of this book by Wilfred Riley, where he catalogs this phenomenon over years. Now, generally, in a political sense, the evidence that he cited was more from the left than from the right, but he made sure to include incidents where the right also called in a hate crime hoax. Although from the left, these tended to be from the angle of either race, sex, or sexual orientation, whereas from the right, these hoaxes were more in the vein of like Blue Lives Matter type stuff. Like, oh, I had a sticker on my truck that I support the cops and it got vandalized, and we need to fundraise off of it or whatever. There was usually the pattern that played out in that vein, whether it was a lefty one about race, sex, whatever, or a righty one about ideology. It was always like, oh, I've been victimized. Let me get my 15 minutes here. Let me go tell some sob stories on friendly news outlets, maybe do a little bit of a fundraiser off of it. And then suddenly, like, the truth comes out and you get screwed. Like, it's more of an ideological version of Me Too, especially when you're talking about like a Me Too hoax. If you're familiar with who Trevor Bauer is, he got targeted by a lady who was definitely trying to destroy him and steal all of his money, and in the most egregious way possible, with a fake Me Too claim. These hate crime hoaxes are the same thing. Hey, I was assaulted because I'm black. I was assaulted because I'm a woman. I was assaulted because I'm gay. Whatever. That's going to get clipped, isn't it? And then they run this circuit, and then like Wilfred Riley even had a saying in the book. And then it happened. Like after a certain amount of media frenzy and media circus, the truth came out, and the excuse was always like, "Oh, well, I was just trying to raise awareness about this issue." It's like, if you're trying to raise awareness about something that you can't prove exists, you're not raising awareness. You're telling a lie. If you can prove that it exists, it seems like all you'd have to do is cite it and tell the truth. But for some reason, that particular aspect of it keeps not happening, at least in the incidents that Riley cites. And again, like he cites all of his sources. I think he even mentioned that he had like a website where he was tracking this as an ongoing phenomenon. Now, I can't remember what year the book was written. It was at least the late 2010s. It might have been in the early 2020s that he put it all together. And I feel like, for the most part, this is a phenomenon that is cooling off. I think people are generally hip to it. Now we're getting more in the vein of stuff like the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf bit, where there's not even the facade of, I'm a victim of a crime that was done to me. It's just that, yeah, I did this and I was justified in doing it because I am race X and the guy that I committed a crime against was race Y. If you've seen the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf thing, which it dominated the news for a while, and I'm sure the legal proceeding side of it is still ongoing, but there's no like real new news about it. Sorry, not a better way to say that. But you get it. Like this phenomenon hasn't necessarily gone away. It's just evolved, I think, into something worse. This is the consequence of living in a society where we endure and tolerate these kinds of hoaxes when they're in a lesser developed stage, instead of really coming together to nip them in the bud and say, like, okay, if we believe in justice for all, there has to be some integrity and some honor in that. And you can't be saying that you're going to go raise awareness based on a lie. Really, all you're trying to do is raise funds based on a lie. And this is one of the points that Riley makes a couple of times throughout the book. But like I said, like, while the evidence that he's able to find for this is more in the camp of the blue donkey left side of the political spectrum, there were instances that he found of people on the right doing the same thing. We'll see how this phenomenon continues to evolve in the coming years. Let's just hope that it doesn't get too much crazier. But hey, if you're a Christian, you can kind of expect things to get, I don't know, maybe a little bit worse before Jesus comes back. Blah. As stated previously, the demand for racism exceeds the supply. So there are people out there creating more of the supply. We like to see innovation and productivity, right, folks? Let's just, I don't know, maybe gear that in a different direction. Although, I will say, ever since my night shift changed and I started having to deliver to customers that I'm unfamiliar with, I've had a couple of incidents in the last few weeks where I accidentally tripped the alarms at a new facility because I wasn't sure where the box was to shut it down. And the cops will roll up, and haters might say that it's because they see my work truck and my work uniform and they know that it was a worker that tripped the alarm and not a thief in the night. But maybe other, even more hatery haters will say that the cops just waved and drove off because of my complexion. I don't know. I used to not believe that white privilege was real, but it actually kind of does, and it kind of is, and it's pretty cool. I recommend everybody check it out. Note to internet morons, that was me being facetious. Although, according to the stats from YouTube Studio, most people don't watch my videos to the end, so maybe I'll just put like my really spiciest jokes at the very end to reward the faithful. Anyway, once again, check the link to Nate the Lawyer's video in the description below. His channel's worth a follow. He's good at breaking down current events and analyzing them through the eyes of the law. And while he does fall more on the the conservative right wing side of things, he won't just go with a red narrative. Like if something is factually incorrect, he'll call it out, and he's done that a couple of times. He's good at following intriguing and ongoing stories, and I've been a fan of his channel for a couple of years now, and it's beneficial to follow him. Not just entertaining, but I learned from him as well. And then if you want to check out Wilfred Riley's book, I'll put a link in the description for that as well. But most of all, if you want to check out a very compelling piece of fiction, check out Howling Wilderness by ya boy, and drive safe. See you out there.